Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of At the Movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I am your host, William Fletcher, and I am joined by my usual co-host, Mr. Harry Jobson, joining
This is Democracy
as
Manifest. What is the charge? Eating a meal?
and Barney is unfortunately not with us this week, but he should be on in next week's episode. He's looking forward to what I've got planned for next week, so he should be on then. And this week we are looking at the Marvel Cinematic Universe for the final time of the year with Captain Marvel in anticipation of the Marvels.
Anticipation's a passionate word.
Yeah, to tie into the release of the Marvels. I think that works better.
Yeah, that does work
It's not
better.
out. So I rewatched this film for the purposes of this today. I rewatched it. I haven't seen it. I think I've mentioned this before. I don't know how you are with it. Well, I don't rewatch films a whole lot now. But Marvel movies, I've for some reason never found a major compulsion to rewatch a lot of them, despite the fact that I really like a lot of them. And I don't know why that is, honestly.
I'm a big rewatch guy when it comes to Marvel. I have done the whole rewatch the entire thing a few times, and when I say the entire thing, I mean from, I guess, the Hulk, if you want to count that.
Yeah.
Because the Hulk is technically
right from the big.
Yeah,
right. I think Iron Man came out first, but basically from the beginning.
Well, if you really want to talk about from the beginning, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man is the first one. Technically
true, yes. Technically, it is now, yeah.
But actually,
yeah.
Is it?
I mean, I think X-Men.
But it hasn't tied in yet, has it? Yeah, but Deadpool hasn't been released yet.
Yeah, but once Deadpool 3 comes out, then X-Men will be the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I get what you mean. Yeah,
I'll go through the whole thing. But every time I do it, I do skip a couple. I usually skip the second Thor movie.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, that's
like Dark World's dog shit. I'll skip.
I think it's the worst Marvel movie, to be honest. I think it is. I think I touched on this in the Thor episode I did last year. But I think it's the worst Marvel film. I still think it is. I know a lot of people didn't like Multiverse of Madness, and a lot of people didn't like Ant-Man 3, and a lot of people didn't like Love and Thunder. I think those are all much better than Thor 2. And I'd say Iron Man 2 as well, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'll skip Thor 2. I'll skip Captain Marvel. And I skipped the Black Widow movie. Okay, this sounds sexist, right? It's hard. It is really hard to discuss these films without having some like genuine. Because first of all, I'm gonna start off by saying Brie Larson, I genuinely love as an actor. I think she's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think she actually. I think she's really good in this. A lot of people said her performance was flat. She's not the problem with this film. I think the problem with the film is just the fact that it's a bridging film between Endgame and Infinity War, and it was got caught in a bad time.
Yeah, so I saw this when it came out in the cinema, and I wasn't a big fan, but this was also during a period where I was watching sort of YouTube channels that were like anti-SJW YouTube channels that were like, oh, there's a female, like that kind of thing, like, oh, there's a female lead, and, that kind of thing, like, oh, Endgame, there's like a gay character, those kinds of channels, who complain about any form of progressiveness in media, those kinds of channels. So I that's when I watched this, but I never got into the hate. Yeah,
I was always just indifferent to it.
Yeah, no. So I think that definitely affected my viewing when I saw this. So I rewatched it today, and I really don't see the major problem with it. Like, I don't think it's like great or anything.
It's boring.
I would put it as a mid-tier Marvel movie for me, anyway.
It lacks substance.
The problem with it is, though, it's such a weird placement.
Yeah.
Like, it comes out the month before Avengers Endgame. Like, the biggest movie, certainly I would argue, of our generation, Harry. Like, and it just sort of, I think, because I'm watching it 4.5 years later with the benefit of hindsight. And I think going into it, I think a lot of people, and I do think I went in with this as well, is like I was expecting something more with Endgame, and it doesn't really have that. It's not really overly connected
this
to
would have worked.
Endgame.
This would have worked way better if it was tied into the first Guardians film. Like the tie into like Infinity War and Endgame. If you drop this around the time you drop Guardians 1, not only does it have the full thing with the scrolls and like
yeah, it
Ronan,
gives you a bit more,
but like
you've also got Ronan in this, and
but it also would have given you that time for when the whole post-credit scene in Infinity War when Nick Fury drops the pager. It's like, oh, you would have been like, oh, that's Captain Marvel! Instead of being like, who the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
Some guy on YouTube told me that's Captain Marvel.
You get that. Because I remember when Infinity War came out, I had no idea what the fuck that meant. I was like, what is that? And I, like, in Infinity War where he presses the pager and, like, that logo post. And the music, like, is like, it's, like, goes up and you're, like, I'm like, okay, so I'm meant to know who this is.
This is supposed to be hype, yeah. I mean, I knew who it was because I'd read the comics, but for the general viewer, like...
They've got no idea, yeah. They're like, what the fuck does that mean? And I think Captain Marvel came out at the wrong time. I think... And I think overall, like I would say I like the movie. I think it's good for the most part. But I do think that it just is not
placed well within the MCU. Yeah. When I rewatch it, if I'm gonna
skip it, to be honest.
Yeah, you can skip it, but I like to watch it after I watch the first Guardians when I'm doing a rewatch, because then it ties in. It just it helps my brain with it, and then I'm like, oh, it's Captain Marvel, and then I can just jump straight into Endgame. Also, just quickly, when we're talking about skipping, when we're talking about skipping MCU films, I will always skip Far From Home. It sucks a dick. It's a terrible film. It is just a terrible, terrible film.
Right.
It's so bad. It's such a, and we've touched on this, but it's so terrible.
We did touch on this. Go back to our second Spider-Man episode where Harry just lays into Far From Home. There's like a good... I think I had to cut some of that out because it was
almost like an hour of... It was like 40 minutes, like a good solid 40-minute, like...
You just went... I mean, you went in on the MCU Spider-Man films in general, to be honest. Like, you weren't the biggest Homecoming fan, if I recall.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Homecoming fan, but I'll watch it. And I like Spider-Man in Civil War, and I like No Way Home. But Far From Home is a dog shit film that should have never been made. And I love Jake Gyllenhaal. Do you know how much it hurts for me not to watch a great Jake Gyllenhaal film? Not great Jake Gyllenhaal film. Great Jake Gyllenhaal performance. I think he does really well, but I think the film sucks dick. But that's not the point. The point, we're talking about Captain Marvel, and I think when you talk about Captain Marvel as a character, I think
you have to. I think part of the problem. Sorry, I was interrupting you.
No. You're right. It was just more sort of about like how she's basically Superman. Like it's.
Well, I think I think the problem with Captain Marvel. I don't dislike the character. I think there's a lot you could do, and I think the film actually does quite a bit with what I would argue is kind of a blank character. Like, she's not a boring character or anything, but it's like, it's not... I've seen it before, and which isn't inherently a bad thing, by the way. I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
But it's just sort of... She's like a Chris Evans Captain America, like where she's a bit of a... she's not a boring character per se, but she's like... She doesn't have the personality of like a Chris Hemsworth or a Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, she's not that deep of a like. When this isn't on again Brie Larson's performance, she does it really well. When you watch this film, you see the subtleties and the emotions. The character is meant to be played flat because they have no identity for majority of the film. And
exactly.
when
half the film is her trying to figure out who she is, like half the film is like her trying to find her memories. Yeah.
And I'm excited to see more of the dynamic between her and some of the other Avengers. Like I remember in the Endgame, she had a really interesting dynamic with Thor, and I liked that because Thor primarily played the role that she came in to do. And I understand that she's such an overpowered character when it comes to her powers, and I think that brings a bit of a problem. And I'm okay with the whole she's on the other side of the universe doing her thing, but in like Endgame when she was struggling to fight Thanos, it's like no, like not she wasn't struggling, but it's like no, like no.
She wipes, I think it. I think it's almost sort of like how. Like I'm going to use Thor to use another MCU example. I think the problem with Thor sometimes is it's like, how do you write around him because he is so strong as a character? So it's like you need a good writer to figure out what to do with Thor, and I think that's what they did with Ragnarok very well. Was they sort of did a lot with his character to make him interesting because Thor before Thor Ragnarok was a very boring character, and he didn't add a lot to the. He was kind of like cool. He's like the sexy guy, you know, but like he didn't have anything. He didn't really have a character.
All he had was a smolder and like spoke like Shakespearean. Now that he actually like he's funny and he's a dad and he's got. I like, and we've talked about it before. I like Love and Thunder. I actually really like the film. And I know it's like genuinely hated, but I like how I just like Thor as a character being goofy. It works for him so well. I don't think every male character needs to be goofy. We need the Captain Marvels. We need the Captain Americas. But
yeah, you need the sort of serious ones. But you can like Marvel. I think for the most part they're very good at balancing having the sort of serious characters with the sort of more lighthearted. You know, like Paul Rudd as Ant-Man is a very sort of light-hearted character, and then but he works well with the more serious, you know, like Captain America and
yeah. Or take the Guardian. The reason the Guardians worked so well was that Rocket was a very deep character who was like a bit manic. You had Star-Lord who was the goofy leader, but then you had Gamora who was the so they all sort of balance off each other, where it was like Rocket had Mantis, whereas Mantis and like we're getting into Guardians, but there was the Guardians had to end because they were all becoming goofy.
Yeah, I mean Brie Larson, I really like Brie Larson. I think she's a very good talent. I hate this whole idea now from certain people that she's not good because of Captain Marvel. It's like this is one film. Like she's a very good actress in a lot of she's really great. I think she's a very good actor. And I think she works in this film, you know, for what she's meant to be doing. You know, she's a bit of a more serious sort of like, blank slate of a character almost, because she doesn't know who she is. And I think, you know, by the end she does become very overpowered, but it's like that's sort of the future films have to figure that out. I think for this film, I think it works. And you know, I mean, they've proved like the MCU has proven they can write around powerful characters like Thor before. Like they've done interesting things with Thor.
Well, look,
you know,
and even not the MCU, but you look elsewhere. You look at Deadpool and Wolverine are two characters that, in theory, can't die. That's overpowered. They can't die, but even though one of them did, but like, they can't die.
Yeah, exactly.
Although the reason they're such a balanced character is because they know Wolverine does. Wolverine has more of a sort of a power set, but take Deadpool. He has no distinctive powers except he was a mercenary, so he's good with weapons. That's it.
Yeah.
But besides not being able to die, he still feels pain, but he can't shoot fucking lasers out of his hands. He doesn't have energy blasts. But I think with Carol Danvers, it's substance. It just feels misplaced. I can't put my finger on exactly what it is about it.
I think that's arguably the biggest problem with it is its placement in terms of release. Because I imagine there were a decent amount of people who went to see this, you know, before Endgame, thinking like this is gonna have some really great stuff. You know, this is really gonna lead into end. You know, like we all like. I think a lot of people knew like it's a flashback. You know, it takes place in the 90s, which I think is fine. But I think there was an expectation that it would lead into Endgame. I certainly thought there would be something, and you don't really get like there's the post-credit scene. Yeah, just it in terms of how when it was released. I think if it wasn't released before and like right before Endgame, people probably would have been not as bothered by it. I think that's the problem. Is it came out just before Endgame, and thus there was an expectation set on it that some people were disappointed wasn't met. And I think, like, it's not that bad. Like, I don't think this is a particularly awful film. I think there's a lot
It's
to like
fine.
about this film.
It's a perfectly fine film.
Like, so yeah, sort of. I think this is a very like. I think this is. I've got my full MCU ranking up here. That I'm looking at my MCU ranking now of all the films. And I put this between Avengers: Age of Ultron and Iron Man 3, or 21st on my ranking. So yeah, Captain Marvel, like it's. I don't think it's a bad film. I think it's like mid tier Marvel. Like, I'd happily sit down and watch it, but it's not like a film I'm like. It's not like the first Iron Man or Winter Soldier or Infinity War or Black Panther, where I'm like, I would like choose to watch that, you know, like be like it's not the first one that comes to my mind where I'm like, I want to watch that MCU film, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that the film is not it's not particularly a standout, although I watched the Miss Marvel show. Because I've seen all of the shows. I'm currently watching the new Loki. We can talk about that a bit as well. Yeah. But because it does tie into the whole.
Oh, I haven't seen episode 2 yet.
The Marvels.
It does tie into the second one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought the Miss Marvel show was great. I loved it. I heard some criticism, and I'm like, yeah, it's a bit of a younger audience because it's a younger protagonist, but it is a great show. It was like really compelling. I thought it was really good. Out of all of the projects that they've done, it's up there. I really enjoyed the Miss Marvel. It's up there with like Moon Knight for me. And people sleep on Moon Knight. It was goated, and people act like it wasn't that good, but it was actually really good. It wasn't really good, but out of their shows, like Loki season 1 was great.
Yeah, sort of to talk about who else was in Captain Marvel, Samuel L. Jackson.
He does a great performance. Mocap.
I really like Samuel L. Jackson in this, actually. I think Samuel L. Jackson is just one of those actors where I can watch him in anything and I'll probably think he's good. You know, like he's one of those just like...
He just turns up.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson, in pretty much everything I've ever seen him in, he's great. I love him in this, actually. I think he adds a nice balance to Carol Danvers as well, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, they have a really good chemistry together, and they work.
I think Talos works well as well. I think.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think most of the supporting actors, besides Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson, no one else really stands out to me. Like, no one's bad, but I just don't think any of them are like on the level, like that they're like decent and they work. But I also like the opening Marvel insignia where
I do like the Marvel insignia with Stan Lee. I think that it is it's really sweet. It's touching. The fact that like the way the little smile she gives him on the bus, like she knows who he is as well. I like that. Yeah, but other than that, like, we could talk about the substance of each bit of the film, how when they set up... Nirvana fade-in. I like the Nirvana fade-in. That's all I got to say. You know, that one... Because we talk about needle drops, and I don't think all the songs work. Any film that plays Waterfalls by TLC, I love. Where the Millers, great.
There's like a lot of 90s references, because it takes place in the 90s, and I don't mind that necessarily. Like, they did it with Guardians in the 80s references. I don't dislike it. I think it's fun, but it's not, you know, it's whatever. I think this film is just very whatever to me. It doesn't stand out to...
Yeah, and it's hard to talk about substance in a film that feels like it lacks any. Give me Spider-Man. The only reason I watch it is for, like, give me Spider-Man. I want Spider-Man, I want Deadpool. Like, Nick Fury and the Secret Invasion. Like, did you even watch the Secret Invasion show?
Oh, I did. I want to talk about that a bit as well, because I didn't like it that much. I thought it was pretty crap. I mean, do we want to put Captain Marvel to bed? I feel like we said basically what we wanted to say.
Yeah, it's like a 6.
I feel like
it's like a 6. It's fine.
6? Yeah. I do want a couple things I want to touch on. First of all, I like whenever there's a cat in a movie. I like...
Oh, yeah. I liked how that was his reason for the black eye. Like, you're expecting... the missing eye. You're expecting to be something super cool, and it was just the cat.
And also the visual effects in this film actually I think are fantastic. Like the de-aging effects they did on Samuel L. Jackson, I think are remarkably well done.
Yeah, I know. I heard a few people being like, "It's uncanny valley. It's weird," and it's like, no. The Will Smith one looks bad in fucking Gemini Man. That looks
in Gemini Man, yeah,
horrible.
The Irishman as well. The Irishman's got really, no. But I think this looks seamless. Like it's like like most of the film or a decent chunk of the film is de-aged Samuel L. Jackson, and it's seamless. Like he looks
Pulp Fiction.
Like it works. I think. Yes. But yeah, I give it a 7. It's I think it's good, but not amazing.
Yeah,
and
it's good, but not great.
I'm gonna quickly touch on Ms. Marvel. It's good, but not so Ms. Marvel. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's I quite like Ms. Marvel. I think there's a lot of good stuff there. I think it's probably the most consistent MCU show in terms of quality. Like, I think it all worked. Whereas I think, like, WandaVision I really love, but the last couple episodes kind of let it down a bit. I think
Loki, same with I liked Falcon and Winter Soldier. Just to quickly summarize, I'll just speak on William's behalf. Captain Marvel, good show. It's alright. The performances are pretty good. Secret Invasion, kind of doo-doo, falls off towards the end, not very consistent. I only really watched the first episode, I'm going to be honest with you. I think Samuel L. Jackson puts in a great performance for someone who's 75.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson is a real old. I give Ms. Marvel a 7. Yeah. And I give Secret Invasion a 6.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, 7 and a... I'm not going to rate Secret Invasion because I haven't seen it. I've watched the first couple episodes and that was it.
So thank you all for joining us for this week's episode. It's a bit of a shorter one.
William.
Hello.
I am going to end off this episode I'm going to sign off this episode for us. But I just want you to know this, that I will sign off this episode.
Okay. Yeah, I heard you before. Yeah.
How do you do it? Okay, thank you so much for everyone listening to us today. We've had some technical difficulties, but you'll put up with it. I'm signing you off for the first time. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.